back to I Could Poison You. Oh, but I won't. That would be silly. I like you. About as much as I like not being in jail. Today, we've got a really good one. We have possibly the most poisonous plant on Earth, the Rosary pea. I hope that you're all tucked in, snuggled up in your blankets, with your I Could Poison You mug, with some coffee or tea or drink of your choice. Buy a mug, because we are about to get into a spooky, spooky plant. The rosary pea is native to India and Africa, but it's invasive in many tropical and temperate areas of the world. It's a member of the pea family, the Fabaceae family, and it's an unassuming, slender, woody vine with herbaceous branches. It'll twine itself around neighboring trees and shrubs and grow up over 30 feet tall. The leaves are alternate, petioled, and they're pinnately compound, pinnately meaning feather-like compound, and they're even too, so you'll have little pairs of leaflets without one final one at the tip, so it's an even number. They're 2 to 5 inches long, with around 5 to 15 pairs of oval to oblong leaflets, each of which is less than an inch long. The rosary pea will form clusters of pale pink or lavender or white flowers that are densely clustered. These will turn into seed pods that will open up, peeling back to reveal these shiny red seeds with a black spot. There's also a white variety. So they look like a lot of members of the pea family, but with those peas on them, those seeds, they're very distinct and easy to identify. Once established, they're difficult to remove. They have a very deep root. There are no known biological controls. Pesticides do work, but of course they carry all the problems that pesticides have. However, when you see how poisonous this pea is, it might be something to consider, and that's saying a lot coming from me. You can burn the plant down to the ground. The toxic compound is not volatile, so it won't spread with the burning like poison ivy would, but they reportedly thrive after a fire, so you might just slow them down and then they'll just kick up while everything else is burned down and take over. Oh, by the way, they're also popular as landscaping plants in some areas. Have fun with that. Hey, guess what? The plant is used medicinally. Now, I have absolutely no experience using the rosary pea medicinally. Now, I have no doubt that some people are able to use them medicinally quite successfully. However, I don't have any expertise, so I am not here to give you any guidance. Any information I give you about the rosary pea should be looked at as descriptive rather than instructive. If for some reason you wanted to use a rosary pea medicinally, you need to go to someone that is trained and qualified to help you with that. I am not, and I would not want you ever to try what I'm about to say and then ingest any of this product, because I have no training or experience with this plant. I do with other plants, but not with this one, and this is a pretty serious one. So take this as educational, not instructional, please. So first, all parts of the plant, the seeds, the roots, and the leaves are all used medicinally. First, you have to detoxify the seeds. I don't think you have to detoxify the leaves and roots, but don't quote me on that. So to detoxify the seeds, first they powder the seeds and then boil them in milk or congee water for 3 to 6 hours and then discard the liquid. And congee water is basically a brown rice water with some herbs, or you can put some things in there. Now, according to the CDC, most of the toxicity is lost after 30 minutes when the water temperature is raised to 176 degrees Fahrenheit or 80 degrees Celsius. But sure, 3 hours, that sounds like a good idea. The plant reportedly has these properties as antitussive, so it's good for coughs and lung things. It's stimulatory and strengthening to the nerves, used to treat paralysis. In high doses, it can be sedative. It also has some aphrodisiac and male enhancement properties. It's used as a hair growth stimulator. It's an abortifacient used to cause abortion, so it is in no way safe for pregnant women, whether it's been detoxified or not. It's used as an emetic, a purgative, vermifuge, diuretic, makes you pee, and it's antimicrobial, probably because it's just poisoning all the little germs. It's also anodyne. It's used for lower back pain, arthritis, bursitis, fibromyalgia, sciatica, all kinds of stuff. Externally, apparently it's a pretty good skin herb used for hair loss, acne, eczema, psoriasis, all that kind of stuff. Now, I'm going to present some dosages on the screen, but keep in mind, this is not a recommendation. I'm putting this here as reference, where I have seen other places people say that this is the suggested dosage. I'm not putting it here with any kind of authority or guarantee that it'll work. And again, I'm telling you, don't eat it unless you have a really, really, really good reason to think that you can, and that it won't poison you. Okay, speaking of poison, let's talk about the poison in the Rosary pea. The poison in the Rosary pea is called abrin, and it's similar in structure and property to ricin, but it's about 30 times more powerful. It will be a yellowish to whitish powder, and it's estimated that a human fatal dose is between 0.1 to 1 microgram per kilogram of body weight. 0.000015% of abrin in ratio to body weight, so that's like a seed. However, there are also reports of people surviving after eating multiple seeds, so this is one that's really going to vary on your personal biology. Also, birds seem unaffected, and they're happy to just dispense the seeds everywhere in their poop. The poison works by inhibiting protein synthesis, which causes cell death. Many of the symptoms of abrin poisoning can be explained by the abrin-induced endothelial cell damage, or the cells that it's touching as it's passing through your system. It can cause increased capillary permeability, so the cells lose fluid, there's protein leakage, and of course that causes cell death, and it causes damage and death to a lot of the cells around them when all that stuff starts leaking out, or it can. The poison is held inside the seed coat, and as long as the seed coat is not broken, it is theoretically safe to swallow a whole seed. So if you see your kid going over and just swallowing these seeds, stop them right away. Go to the doctor right away, but don't super freak out, because if they just swallowed them, they may be just fine. But let's not swallow them anyway. These can be fatal if they're ingested, inhaled, injected. Yeah, we're going to get to some of that stuff later. If the skin is unbroken, skin contact ought to be safe. It's thought to be safe, but it can enter through wounds or abrasions. So if your skin is broken and the skin on the seed coat is broken and then they touch, that's where you get problems. It can also be absorbed through the eyes. Basically all of the mucous membranes. Don't get it in your nethers. I don't know why you'd be sticking them down there anyway, you weirdo. Okay, let's talk symptoms. Now the symptoms can vary based on how you were exposed, whether by ingestion, inhalation, injection, sprinkle it on your eyeballs for some crazy reason. But it can cause nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain, and cramping, severe dehydration from all the vomiting and the diarrhea. It can also cause blood in the stool and urine from all the cell death that's happening along there. It can cause weakness, stupor, convulsions, and drowsiness. Also trouble breathing, especially if you breathed it in. And the trouble breathing is often caused by fluid forming in the lungs from all of the cells dying and just losing all their fluids into the lungs, and it's a bad scene. It's a bad scene. Eye exposure can lead to general inflammation, followed by retinal hemorrhage. Doesn't that sound lovely? Severe tissue destruction, vision damage, and blindness. In some cases, rosary peas can cause the inability to urinate and heart disease. Eventually, you have multi-system organ failure affecting the GI tract, kidneys, liver, and pancreas. So after exposure, a person may be symptom-free for a few hours to several days. Then everything starts going wrong and you die. If you inhale it, the accumulation of fluid in the lungs can be expected within 18 to 24 hours, with respiratory distress and death occurring within 36 to 72 hours. Now, let's talk about the antidote. There is none. I told you it was terrifying. There's no antidote. Maybe some sources say that amaranth leaf juice with sugar is the best antidote for rosary pea poisoning, and they will say that 10 milliliters of amaranth juice with 5 grams of sugar 2 to 3 times a day for 7 days will fix you right up, along with pomegranate juice and grape juice. Maybe that might be effective. WebMD didn't think so, but they don't think herbal medicine is real anyway. Nevertheless, hope is not lost if someone does get exposed. There was a girl in China, a 16-year-old girl, that ingested 10 crushed rosary pea seeds. She was admitted to the Department of Gastroenterology. They used gastric lavage, stomach pumping, where they take a little tube and they'll squirt down some, I guess it's a saline solution, I'm not really sure, but they'll squirt a little bit of that down and then they'll suck some fluid up and then squirt a little fluid down and suck a little fluid up until they stop getting stomach contents and everything is just the saline, and it's very controlled. But they did that. Purgation, gastric acid suppression by proton pump inhibitor, so they stopped the digestion, they stopped all the acid. They administered some liver protection, hemostasis. They worked with making sure her blood volume and electrolytes were all levels were all good, because if all your cells are just exploding, that's gonna mess with electrolytes, and of course you're gonna lose blood from bleeding. And they used a continuous renal replacement therapy and hemoperfusion. Okay, what those are, that's basically where they take the blood out of your body and run it through a machine that filters it and then brings it back to your body clean. That way your kidneys don't have to do it. If you have failing kidneys, they may have to do this like dialysis. They may have to do this regularly. For her kidneys were fine, but they did not want the poison to get to her kidneys, because if it did, it could wreck them. Your kidneys are the filtration organs. They're some of the filtration organs. And if she was going to excrete this toxin, if it had to pass through the kidneys, it might just permanently damage them. So they wanted to get it out of the body, let the machine filter it out, and then get the clean blood back in, which I think was very smart. Well, they're doctors. They ought to be very smart, right? The girl made a full recovery with no complications at her 3-month follow-up, so that's great. Of course, that's a little outside the realm of what you could do at home, so this is definitely, absolutely one of those poisons that you want to get to a doctor. But as always, let's say hypothetically, you can't get to a hospital for whatever reason. There's zombies everywhere. Somebody has interacted with rosary pea in an unhealthy way, and you have to do something about it. What do? Okay. If they've ingested it fairly recently, like within an hour, you might induce vomiting. Now, the CDC does not suggest that you induce vomiting, but they can do that stomach pumping, which is much more controlled. In a home setting, you don't have that. And yes, if you throw it up, it's going to damage the esophageal lining, can damage in the mouth wherever it's touching, which to me sounds less dangerous than it busting your kidneys. So, maybe that. You could also do the charcoal thing. CDC says to administer charcoal as a slurry with 240 milliliters of water for 30 grams of charcoal. And again, that's going to be most effective in that first hour, or as soon as possible. Of course, the trouble is you may not know about it until symptoms appear, which could be days after. You don't want herbs that are going to stimulate digestion. No bitters, please. None of the spices and stuff that are like black pepper, things that can stimulate digestion. You'd rather just get it out, not absorbed. Thinking theoretically, maybe big doses of mallow or other herbs with high polysaccharide content, like a bunch of okra, a bunch of violet leaves, and then all the mucilage from those could help to prevent absorption or minimize absorption. And I haven't read of anyone doing this. This is purely just kind of a mental exercise of theorizing. But that's, I've got a bunch of violet leaves. If it was me, we might do that. Definitely want to take some herbs to protect the filtering organs. So for liver, milk thistle seed, definitely 100%. For the kidneys, that's a little more, let's see, that's more of a thinker, because most of the kidney, I could give you a bunch of kidney herbs, but most of those are designed to like boost kidney function, to get stuff through the kidneys. And you don't want the aberrant in your kidneys. I guess it has to come out eventually, and you don't want it sitting there, but you may not want to flood the kidneys with it a bunch all at once. You want something that's going to protect the kidneys. So, maybe something like yarrow. Yarrow might be a good herb to hit a few of the symptoms at once. It's astringent. It stops bleeding externally and internally. So if you took yarrow, that could help to reduce a lot of the internal bleeding that could happen with the abrin poisoning. It's also a good kidney herb, and it can help to discharge stuff that's gummed up in there. If you've got to get the abrin out, especially if the kidneys are getting a little damaged from it, it might help them to go ahead and flush that out while it's in there. Again, with this poison, it's mostly supporting symptoms. It's just taking care of the patient until their body can get rid of it. Now, if you or someone else was exposed to abrin, let's say a weaponized form like in a powder or aerosol, first you want to remove yourself from the area. Then you want to remove the clothing that has been dusted with it. Don't pull the shirt over your head, because you might get the powder and rub it on your face and get it in your eyeballs and breathe it in your lungs. Instead, cut the shirt off. Put it in a plastic bag, tie it off. Don't open it again. Those clothes are gone. If someone is helping you, they want to be as protected as possible. Rubber gloves, definitely. Mask, face shield. Luckily, there's a bunch of that around now. Full hazmat suit if possible. Wash yourself with soap and water. Wash your eyes for at least 15 minutes. And seek medical attention too. Luckily, you've got several hours, maybe several days before any symptoms even start. So you could go to the hospital and say, look, this is what happened. This is what I know about it. Let's start the ball rolling, people. Come on. And as we've seen, with proper treatment, people can survive this. All right. Once again, we're at the theoretical poisoning section of the video. And I just want to reiterate, this is not a how-to guide to poison people. This is a mental exercise. It's great material for the murder mystery novel you're going to write someday, okay? There are no known uses of abrin in wars or in terrorist attacks, but it would be really easy. I think the only thing stopping it is that it's not in widespread cultivation, which it's trying to put itself into widespread cultivation. There was a 16-year-old boy in Manchester who attempted to place an order online for 10 milligrams of abrin from what turned out to be an undercover officer. He pleaded guilty and said that he was buying it to take his own life, which is sad. For reference, 10 milligrams of abrin could be used to kill between 150 to 1,500 people. Oh my gosh, this is terrifying. Oh hey, by the way, abrin extract is cheap and easy to make. Abrin is fairly water soluble, and even more so if it's a water alcohol mixture like we would do for tinctures. And now you understand why I want to keep all these videos behind a paywall. Invasive, I mentioned that, right? They're invasive. They grow in my home state, not around me, thank goodness. The dosage needed to poison people, we've mentioned that, but to reiterate, it's a little unreliable. It varies from person to person, but so little is needed. This would be a very, very effective poison. This is more like a poison on the scale of like chemical warfare. It's scary stuff. They could just dust it out of a plane and wipe out a town, and nobody would know what happened until like 7 days later when they start bleeding from their eyeballs. You got your blankets pulled up. There are many vectors of exposure, basically all of your mucous membranes, any broken skin. It's also dangerous for the poisoner because it would be easy to get just a little bit of that blown back on you or splashed on you. This would likely be more dangerous in an area where it doesn't grow. So take the hypothetical situations. Somebody goes down to Florida and harvests some, then drives back to Minnesota, and then the doctors wouldn't be expecting abrin poisoning, so they would be less likely to correctly diagnose the symptoms. There's your murder mystery character right there. The government is concerned that it could be used indoors or outdoors, in the air as an aerosol. It can be aerosolized, little particles in the air. It could be used to contaminate water, food supplies. It could contaminate agricultural products. It could be weaponized in pellets or projectiles designed to carry the toxin. Of course, if you were going to send an army in, it wouldn't be effective for that, because armies just shoot bullets, and bullets work much faster than abrin poisoning. But as an assassination tool, you have like a little airsoft gun that's where the little plastic BB things are coated in abrin, and send that off and peg somebody in the arm, and they're like, ow, how inconvenient and rude of someone, and then 7 days later that person dies. And of course, it would be easy to sprinkle a little bit in a drink or on some food, or put drops of a extract of it in something. So many possible ways this could be used to poison people. Did you know that even if you don't live in a state with these, you can just buy sacks of the seeds on eBay. You can get them off of Amazon. It's so that kid got arrested for buying the toxic chemical concentrate, but it's not illegal to buy the seeds, at least not in the United States. I don't know about other places. It's a scary one. This is a scary one. Yeah, I would still love to have a bracelet or a necklace made of the rosary peas. I would hang it up. Oh, hey, that reminds me. These things are used to make necklaces and bracelets like I was talking about. And there are reports that sometimes people are trying to put the needle through the pea and it slips and scratches the seed coat, and that it slipped and poked a person in the finger, and then the person has died. And I was never able to track down any actual report of this. There's just stories about it. But looking up the dosing information, the amount needed to kill, depending on the size of the person and how vulnerable that person is, it is maybe not likely, but it is plausible that with that much, it could kill a person under the correct circumstances. Wow. There are also stories, unconfirmed, that the rosary peas have been sharpened on one end and used as an assassination weapon. Like you just walk by somebody and poke them with it and then walk off. And that's, again, it's unconfirmed, but it's still plausible, especially because it's directly into the bloodstream, so it's going to go around to your brain, your heart, everything. So usually with toxins, a smaller amount is needed if it's directly into the bloodstream rather than digesting. Because if you digest it, you're not going to absorb all of it. Yeah. Anyway, that's I don't know how likely that is because the dosage is so unreliable. That could definitely kill somebody, or it might not. Anyway, it's a very scary plant. I hope we haven't peaked in video 3. But next time, what am I gonna do next time? Where is even that document? Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Next time, we're gonna back it up just a little bit and talk about regular old cyanide. Gosh, nothing special, right? Pleasant dreams.